Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Stacker News Live. My name's Car with my BFF, Keyan. Guess where I'm at?
You're in a jail cell in Mexico.
No, I'm getting interviewed by the CIA. Woo, doggy! No, I'm
It
just kidding.
looks like is it like one of those portable buildings? It's like they just dropped it from a helicopter in the middle of the field.
I'm in the black box. So I don't know what they call it, a silent room, apparently.
Have
I'm
you seen
kidding.
that show? Have you seen that show? What is it called? It's called oh god, it's like Black Hole or something. Anyway, they
What
go
is it?
into a box and they like cross dimensions and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. No, I
Anyway,
no. Yeah, go ahead.
where are you?
Oh, I'm at home. I'm at home.
Oh,
Media, we've been well behind the scenes. I've just been working really extremely hard because we've just launched two things like Pleb TV, and then we're going to talk about it today. But Startup Day, and then there's just a lot of other stuff that's I have to get done, and I just need like focus time. And so yeah,
yeah,
working a couple
little
days here at
vacation.
home. It feels nice, dude. I haven't been in my apartment in a while, and it feels pretty good. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably. I think at some point your home begins feeling like a hotel room, like it's just
Pretty
you're kind
much,
of
yeah.
there.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what it feels like. Yeah, I'm just literally here for like sleeping and then going back to work. But anyways, how was your week?
How was my week? It was a great time. Um, but I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say about it. I don't think anything happened that was
You had a big release
interesting.
we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about the release. That was. I mean, it's not. We had been working on it for so long that it doesn't feel like a moment, but we'll see how it goes.
I think it's big news, man. I think it's big news. It's as big as the news as like Fountain, adding Noster into its thing. I think it's significant, at least in the ecosystem, or at least to the people that are building it. To me, it feels significant. I could be wrong.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're still dependent. We haven't completely removed the custodial stuff, so it's kind of strapped on, and occasionally will get used, but so that we
Yeah,
can kind of see what it's like. But yeah, I think once it's switched on fully, and maybe people are attaching more wallets and they're actually using it more regularly, I think then it's like reason to celebrate as we can have some real non-custodial usage.
yeah. Cool. If you've never seen this crazy show before, we cover the top five stories on Stacker.news, the front page of Bitcoin. Um, this week, I actually read the news, surprisingly. So I'm
Wow.
coming in here hot. I've read a lot of this stuff. I spent this morning reading through it. It's really interesting to see what the stackers have voted on this week. It kind of shows you, like, it really does, and I say this every week, but it really does give you a pulse of what the average pleb, dev, I mean, whatever you want to call them, is thinking through, like what they find important enough to throw their sats on, which I always find really surprising whenever I see the top five, because it's like this is what they actually want to talk about, or they want people to talk about, if that makes any sense. Which I think is
Yeah.
very interesting because it's a total divergence from like the influencer crowd or even the macro crowd or the doomer porn people. It's just like totally different than what the average Bitcoiner wants to talk about. So I always find it fascinating.
Did you call it doomer porn?
It is. If you go on
Oh,
Twitter, it's basically doomer porn at this
I
point.
see. Like emotionally, it has like a
Yeah,
similar
it's
shape.
kind of like I guess I've been throwing this word around for a while. I just probably haven't used it on the show, but it's kind of like people who are addicted to doomerism, and then they like get like a really weird high from it. It's very much like porn. It's a very like weird because you have to find more doomer stuff to like even get more feared and become even more triggered. It's a self yeah, it's a weird kind of like doomerism is what I call it. It's just doomerism.
Yeah, like at one moment you're maybe concerned about, I don't know.
Inflation.
uh, yeah, inflation, and the next moment you're trying to find a video of like Biden spitting in Kamala's mouth or something.
Yeah, it's just like it's doomer porn. It basically, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people that I respect are into doomer porn in Bitcoin. But
I think it really is Twitter, though. I think that's a lot of it. I think the
Whoa.
algorithm like, does that
Oh,
to
the
you.
algorithm does that to them? Yeah, that makes sense. Um, but even the zero hedge guys, you can kind of see them too. They're very much like doomerists and into doomer
But they're
porn. And
they're all in X though. They're all. I mean, they're
yeah,
all on it too.
yeah. It's funny because most of the shit that they put on there never even comes true. It's like, it's like, dude, I've been hearing you guys talk about this for 2,000 years at this point. Anyways, I'm sure I'm triggering a lot of people right now. Let's go over to the top five stories of the week. The first top story is the amount of attention girls get is off the charts. This is from the mostly harmless territory. This is from Fab's August 12th, 151 comments, 2,600 sats. Dude, 151 comments?
Yeah, I mean, this is something. I mean, a lot of people probably have an opinion on because they're at least on. They're like born into one side of this debate or the other, and so
Yeah.
they're gonna have an opinion. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's a pretty. You can kind. I mean, as a dude, you can kind of identify with Fabs here in that. Um, it basically, he's describing the experience of watching a sister who he says has average looks. We don't know pics or it didn't happen type of deal. I mean, maybe she is average, um, but and he says that she gets a bunch of attention, and she sees her basically like abuse the dudes that she's gets attention from, and like use them for meals and rides and stuff. And then he mentions that he can't get a break. He can't get a break. Like it's just not as easy for him as it appears to be for his sister. And
Yeah.
it's just frustrating as a dude to like see that imbalance, um, perhaps, and have to grapple with the reality of that you don't only like the differences that you and women have aren't only to your advantage, and
Yeah, I thought that when I saw this this week, I was like, this crazy that everybody's chiming in. But it was also good to see some people that I recognize like chime in too, like on both sides. Um, I don't know. You have thoughts on it? I kind of have my thoughts on it, but I don't know if you want to read the comments first, and then we can go into our own thoughts. But
I mostly responded in there. I mean, I just think he's just, I think he's grappling with the feelings, his feelings around this. And I think doesn't understand that it's okay to put effort into like closing this gap is more or less the conversation Fabs and I had. Um, which is like it requires concerted effort to understand, how to be attractive and maybe what a woman wants, um, and how to determine whether a woman is going to use you or not. And thinking about that is not malicious. It's not. I think there's like a bit of a men and women too. They if you watch a lot of fiction or read a lot of fiction, you begin having this idea of what it's like, and it's like these star-crossed lovers. They look each other in the eyes and they're together forever. They know at that moment. And really, it's like a lot of effort. Women I learn earlier because they mature earlier, like this kind of stuff, and they're also just more like socially aware. And but for some, especially for some dudes, they need a lot. Especially, they didn't grow up around a lot of women, who are
yeah,
treating you, who are being women around you, not treating you like you were a little man god. Um,
yeah,
like you don't. It's hard to understand maybe how things work. Anyway, that's my
yeah.
little rant.
The top comment was from Simple Stacker. He said, "I used to think the way you do, but tables turn after you hit your 30s. After that, males, especially those with stable incomes and decent personalities, have a much easier time in dating than females do. That being said, my personal advice is get better, not bitter. Work on yourself betterment rather than dwelling on the injustices of life." Bell Curve came in. He said, "Get better, not bitter. Can we say this to the left wing community without threat of violence and cancellation?" Bell Curve says, "Don't get better, get more and more bitter." um,
Okay.
yeah, and then we have Fabs. He says, "Oh yeah, it's only 10 more years before the tables turn. Awesome." So I guess he's like a young kid seeing all this stuff. I think for me, like I think I've seen a lot of different sides to this. So I grew up like with my sister, I was really close to her, my family. So I've been around women most of my life. So that was never a problem. I think at least for me, talking about myself, I think for me is like I give everybody too much attention, if that makes any sense. Like I'll give
Mm.
equal attention to people, to guys and girls. Um
But you're
and so that's
because
always
you're
been my
bi, or
problem.
because
No, no, it's because like I don't look at it like how do you say, like I don't look at it like one or the other, if that makes any sense. Like I don't I think attention, I think that is just showing people that you actually care about them. I don't think that's a bad thing. Call me crazy. Um and then when you don't give them attention, you're just really, really busy. It's not like a bad thing. I think when I was married, like I definitely had to prioritize my attention to my wife a lot more. So other friends I would have like didn't get nearly as much attention as she did. So I think that just naturally happens. But I don't know. I think the attention thing is kind of weird. I think yeah, and I don't know the other side because I'm not a woman, so I don't know how the other side looks at it. But I don't know. What do you think? Well, yeah, you have a wife. I mean, how much attention do you give her?
I mean, like you, what most of my social attention is directed at her, more so than anyone else, just because she gets what I have left over after work. But I don't know much about this kind of stuff. I've rarely dated from from like 14. No, but even earlier. I've just had girlfriend after girlfriend
Yeah, you
after
used to get
girlfriend.
girlfriends. You just go after girlfriends, if I remember you telling me.
Yeah, that's what I would. That was my thing. I'd find someone I really liked, and we'd start dating, and then we'd stay together for years, and then that'd end miserably, and then it happened all over again. And that just happened. The only time I really went through dating was my early or my mid 20s, and that's when I started to really think about this kind of stuff. And the fact that I'm not part of a social fabric where people can get to know me like by proxy, by part
Yeah,
of our group knowing about me, and that I had to in shorter time frames be able to present my value. And
yeah,
that's when the stuff became kind of relevant for me. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah. I
everyone
don't.
has their own style with stuff like this.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own style. I've always been the type of person I'll just ask the person out. You know what I mean? Like shoot or shoot mentality. I just kind of have that. Like if I want it, I'm just gonna go and get it. And, like I'm not gonna think twice about it. Um, and that's just how I roll. But I think every guy is kind of different, to be honest. You know. But I don't see any point of wasting time with somebody that doesn't want to spend time with you. Especially if you're trying to like make her if you're trying to pursue her, right? That kind of thing. But I think that's where maybe guys are different. The younger guys, at least, are different than my generation, who are more like just focused on themselves. I guess we come from. I think the millennial generation definitely comes from a very like you know um, narcissist point of view. I don't. Maybe narcissist is too strong a word, but we're more us focused. If that makes any sense. I think the millennial generation, just in general.
Then who? Then boomers? I hear the
Then then
opposite of
then
that
then,
sometimes.
then probably like the
Okay.
younger generation. I would say.
You think they're less narcissistic?
I think so. I think they're more like wanting everybody to be equal. It's very social. If, to me, it looks very like socialist. If I'm being completely honest, it feels very socialist.
Hmm.
Probably not a bad thing, but it's just probably the way they grew up. Like, but I think for us millennials, like we grew up through some really hard shit, dude. Like, it's no wonder a lot of millennials are like Bitcoiners and stuff. We're still going through
Yeah.
hard shit.
Yeah, maybe we're a little like war torn, um,
Yeah,
on a generational scale.
I would say it's definitely. I think if there's somebody like him, this would just be me, Christian Filina. But I think just going around, being around other people in a community where they don't value this kind of stuff, where like, because I know, just going to church, I definitely look in and see people who value other things a lot more. For whatever reason, that they just value things a lot more differently, and the last thing that they value is like how many DMs are getting on their social media or how many tweets or anything like that kind of stuff. So um, I would say go hang out with other people that value some other things a little bit differently. And I think most people, at least from what I can tell in that community, value different things. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Find a community. Fabs does a lot of these. If maybe he's not Christian or doesn't feel comfortable going to Christian events. A lot of Fabs does all of these great DIY sewing projects. I think finding like a local meetup
Yeah,
group that does that kind of stuff. Make it. Don't make it.
yeah,
Don't make. And then the only the one piece of advice is mostly make friends with the women that you want to date, and don't even
yeah, for sure.
really try to force the issue of it being more than that, and that can go a really long way. At least allowing you to get more comfortable, so that you can maybe learn
Yeah,
about how they think about you.
the other thing I would say is like get off the dating apps. Like like I think that's another thing that's ruined a lot of this stuff. I think you
I
just
met my
really
wife
look.
on a dating
Well,
app.
okay. Well, when I was married, I didn't. So it's a little bit like I met the person in real life, like as a friend of a friend kind of thing. So
Mm.
I think that's just the more natural way. I think the dating app just puts you into a like yeah, it's just like scrolling Twitter or something. It's very fake. It's very fiat. So nothing against people that use them. I'm just saying like I'm just not there. I'd rather meet people in real life these days. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, everyone has, I think, a medium that suits them uh, best. I actually met my wife in person before we met again on a dating app,
Oh, there you go.
because she was a user of my first startup out of college. But I mean, I always describe it as like I'm attracted to her out of like narcissism. It's like my bad joke because like she was she liked my product, and
Hey, man, that's not a
that's what I
bad
like.
thing.
No, I'm just kidding.
Uh,
But yeah, I think some people. I know I have a friend who hates dating apps. I actually liked them quite a bit. I enjoyed it
of course
because
you
I could
would.
like, yeah. I mean, because it's like, it's very lazy, and then uh, you could all you need is a little bit. You can really test out things. You can really do like. I think the thing I sent my wife, we hadn't seen each other in years, and I sent her, I'm already following you on Twitter. She didn't even know who I was until we had like talked again. But you can like really do weird, just try weird stuff and see what sticks. It's kind of fun. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
my
there's a good Netflix. What was it? The no, not Netflix. There's a good Black Mirror episode about this. Did you ever see it? I think it's called what's the name of it? It has that Smith song, "Hang the DJ." Like I think there's a really good Dark Mirror or Black Mirror episode on this. If Fabs is interested, you should check out. It's called like "Hang the DJ." But anyways, this is probably the most interesting post that hit the top, top one in like I can't think of another time something like this has hit Stacker News. It's
I
literally
mean,
what the stackers want to talk about. It's crazy, right?
yeah, it's very personal, and something that everyone has experience on. We had another similar story from, I forget his username is so hard. It's like CEJ.
Yeah.
What talking about his experience with traumatic brain injury and stuff, and that was
Whoa.
another awesome one. But like a little less relatable for
Yeah.
a lot of people. This one is relatable to nearly everyone. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Fabs, good on you for having the top story this weekend. Keep them coming. The next top story is Graphene OS, my current setup. This is from Skipper, August 10th, security territory, 34 comments, 3,251 stats. And just like that, Keyan, we go from talking about dating apps to Graphene OS. There you go.
who would have thought. Yeah, keep your dating app in a separate profile on your Graphene OS phone, so that you got one for each swipe right that you have. You have your own
Or
profile
carry
just in
multiple
case.
phones.
It's even better. Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. He describes the way he sets up, or they set up their profiles in Graphene OS, and he says he has a main profile, which he is like using fairly frequently that doesn't involve any of his kind of Bitcoiner identity. And then he
Hmm.
has a decoy profile, which is, the one that's sort of making him look a little more normal. And, where things that would leak his privacy a bit in general if he's using them too. And then he has a cypherpunk one, which is where he keeps all of his Bitcoin stuff. And then he goes through a little bit of like the detail of how he sets it up. Like he tries to hide the fact that there are these additional profiles on his phone. And it doesn't appear to be super easy, but he has different passwords for each of them and fingerprints disabled. And, it's basic. He's getting about as good as you can get absent removing probably a SIM card from the phones
Yeah,
or
that's
having separate phones entirely.
so. I read this. That was my biggest kind of thing when I saw this that he still had the SIM card in there. I was just like, what's the point at that point? Nothing against what he's doing. I think what he's doing is great. It's like a great, awesome, giant step, and even thinking through all this profile stuff is really cool. I know Siggy jumped in. He had a really good comment here. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Siggy said, "Thanks for this post. I had meant to do something like this, but I got lazy. I know myself. It would drive me nuts logging into different profiles. I know I'm sacrificing some security. I'm impressed that post didn't go where I thought it might be. I have seen lots of people set up a Google profile with Play Store and all the Google BS in a sandbox way. I have still managed to avoid Google Apps so far." Yeah, then Skipper says, "In my case, I'm in the main profile about 95% of the time, so having to switch profiles once or twice a day doesn't really bother me." Um, I think the thing here that I've come to realize using graphene for a little while now is I think the SIM card is probably the most important thing because you're trying to stop the amount of surveillance that they're trying to like. It's one thing if you pay your credit card or you pay your debit card here, and then you go and you have this phone that's following you and it's pinging you, and then maybe you order an Uber here or something like that. Like it's all tracking you, it's tracking where you are 24/7 every day, right? I'm sure everybody on Stacker News is on a list, I'm sure. But what I'm trying to say is like that it's very likely what the most important thing there is the actual it's a SIM card, in my opinion. To me, it seems like if you get rid of the SIM card, you get rid of the pinging that goes back and forth. Um, to me, you're solving like 50%, 30% of the problem there. It's just the tracking part of it. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is a big component. I mean, if they can't track all these other things, they'll probably track that, and it is likely a fairly consistent identifier is provided by your SIM card, and so I guess that gets all correlated with all kinds of stuff. But they also have other ways to fingerprint your devices, so it's not foolproof. You think if you're using a VPN, they're not able to determine that it's the same device, but
I think that's what. Yeah, I think you have to swap devices every 3 or 4 months, though. That's where I think like if you're really serious about it, you're gonna spend extra $100 every 3 or 4 months to swap your pixel or whatever, right? Like you're not gonna use the same pixel. So I don't know. I think there's a couple ways to do this kind of stuff. I know how I think through it. I think the whole Google Play stuff. Um, to me, I don't see the point at that point if you're going to be in, like if you're going to have a SIM card, then you have Google Play, and then I guess you're trying to reduce your privacy. But to me it's more about surveillance to me than anything, and that's how I look at privacy and these kind of things. It's more about the surveillance aspect of it than it is the how much data am I leaking out. To me, it's just more about like I don't want people following me or people knowing where I'm going or what I'm spending my time or money on. You know what I mean? So I could be I
yeah,
could be the minor. I could be like a the small subset of people that think that way. And then whenever I see like I think there's a couple people mentioned the silent link stuff and I think that's all great and everything. I just look at those. I just got to assume those are honeypots though. Do you know what I mean? Um,
hmm,
it's nothing
that's fair.
against them. It's nothing against them. I just have to assume they are. But even graphene probably is a honeypot too as well. Who knows? But
Yeah,
it's tough, man. When you start really I mean, there's some conversations we have in the lab and stuff, and I won't talk about most of that stuff here. But I mean, it does put into question like if you want complete privacy, maybe you just need to not have a phone. You know?
yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of that's fair. I think assuming everything you're using is possibly hostile to you is probably the best approach to really guarantee um, you're secure. Like even if Silent Link is fine and it's friendly, um, it if you can go the extra step to like rotate whatever you can do to use it more anonymously, preparing for the case where they're not friendly and treating you well, your privacy well, then that's good. That just makes it even more secure for you. And so there's other than the inconvenience of doing whatever you have to do to be more private, it does it increases your
I would
privacy.
I will say moving down from like your iPhone to graphene definitely like is not as hard as people think it is. It's actually graphene's actually much better in a lot of ways. The keyboard still drives me crazy, but other than that, I think it's just it's to me it's a much more focused minimalist experience that I've grown accustomed to since using it. And
Mm.
I think you should have a an iPhone for work and stuff like that, but just know that every time you're on the toilet or something, you're being watched. It's just that kind of grossness when I think of like iPhone and Androids and all that kind of stuff. It's just like you got people watching you 24/7 on that thing. It's kind of gross. Um,
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good to have that level of thinking about it, or be that skeptical of their promises. My phone is getting so old; it's going to get like sunsetted by Apple.
really?
I need to figure out what to do. I want to switch to graphene, but I still need to keep an iPhone. Um,
Yeah,
so I
you should
might have
just
to
have
buy
a
two phones.
you should just have a you can get like a cheap little iPhone.
iPhone.
I don't know if it's iPhone 7 or SE, but that still uses the fingerprint. But then
Mm.
you can just throw some tape on the cameras and stuff, and it's just a I mean, it's basically just a surveillance phone. I think if you're in Bitcoin, you especially, Coob, me especially, I think I definitely think we're on a list. Maybe not the stackers, but we're definitely on a list.
I mean, I hope they're watching me. I mean, I don't know.
People to watch.
I keep my blinds open. You know what I mean? I like people like watching me get undressed. But no, I mean, I mean, I just don't. I don't care if they are so much. But I do like the idea of I don't know being like understanding how to protect my privacy if I need to. That's what I'm uh,
Yeah.
like like interested in. Like if I wanted to do this for myself, if I needed to do this for myself, I would need to be sure that I'm competent at it because it's not easy to do well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for the stackers at home, they should definitely think about using graphene and staying away from all the Apple stuff. And um, yeah, anyways, but a
Yeah,
great post though, nonetheless. I really love this stuff. Keep it coming, keep it
yeah,
coming, Skipper. The next top story is production L402 payment protocol use cases. This is a Bitcoin territory, August 11th from Mary Oscar. 19 comments, 2,767 sats. Keel, what's this?
yeah. So Oscar is the a co-founder of Fountain, along with Nick, and he asked about L402. Probably looking to possibly implement it, but L402 is an HTTP status code that basically returns to the person who's requesting an HTTP resource, hey, you need to pay, and here's how you pay. Um, and people are doing this with Lightning stuff. Lightning Labs released a project, Aperture, that provides some of this stuff, and they have their own kind of flavor of it. But um, Oscar's asking if anyone's using it in production. Where can we see it live? How much use is it getting? Does it matter? And yeah, so there's quite a bit of conversation about it. Uh, we had Jonas who works for Chain Code, I think, if he hasn't moved on yet, but he also runs BitcoinSearch.xyz, which is this awesome Bitcoin search engine where you can search like the Stack exchange and the mailing lists and stuff. They have it there for their chat, their like AI chat thing, and then there are quite a few other like FewSats uses it quite a bit, and I think Open Agents uses it quite a bit. Another AI chat service. It's really useful if you like don't want to have like user accounts and authentication, but you want people to pay and be able to come back and access uh, like the payments that they've already made. It's like particularly useful for that. Um, yeah, but a pretty cool conversation. I wondered the ways in which Oscar is expecting to use it, but
Yeah, I would imagine Cascader Jim, if he was here, he could chime in on all that stuff. But I don't know. I think it's still early with this stuff, and I don't think a lot of people really see the potential with this. Unfortunately, I think all the devs do, and maybe a few of us do, but I don't know, man. Just seeing Cascader and Open Agents up close every day, I really do feel like it's going to be another kind of like um, water spring of sats here in the near future. Like I really do, and I'm not just saying that. To me, it feels like this is the one area of Bitcoin where it you have the potential of earning just earning so much sats just from all these services, and then over time it just becomes easier and easier to what am I trying to say? I had a post about this the other day, but what I'm trying to say is like the amount of work and production and all that is just going downwards. I think the way Jim described it was like a steel beams, and so over time it's just gonna get easier and easier and easier, and if you do the math, it's basically just like the best services, the best agents win, basically. Um, and you're kind of already seeing it on the tech side, on the fiat tech side, but we're talking about actual Bitcoin here. We're talking about like um, yeah, I don't know. To me, it's going to be very easy to see like a Stacker News version of Hugging Face, if that makes any sense. And the fact that we haven't seen that yet um, is kind of surprising. But I think the first person who can actually create like the first like that type of like services and agents and all that kind of stuff and tools and to me when I see Cascader, and I'm not just saying this, but just looking at it very closely, to me it's just a completely obvious um, like when you look at where is the most sats going to be made here in the near future, it's going to be mining exchanges. And I think these possible use cases with the L402 stuff and the AI stuff, I think is going to be the third place that could potentially become like a spring. I don't know, but still early.
yeah, I think that makes pretty good sense. I see a lot, especially a lot of the agent stuff, or at least the cascade. I don't even know what agents means in the context of AI, to be honest. But at least in the context, at least in Cascader's case, I do see it as like a glue sitting between services, which is like the most annoying part of using other products and even building products is the all the in between part. And yeah, I think having that there, that like connective tissue between things and just charging a small toll as you cross it, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, because you're not exactly doing it, but like you're doing like the non-custodial zaps, right? I mean, you got to think at a certain point, there's a certain threshold um, that all this crosses, and then it becomes so much more fluid. And then custodial and non-custodial doesn't feel there. It doesn't feel like so much friction there. Like you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And I don't know how we get there, but I do know, like, just looking back and just looking at you, Jim, and like some of these other people, like Christopher from Open Agents, like looking at y'all the past year and seeing the amount of progress, and then seeing where it is now compared to a year ago, it's like, of course, this is where it's headed in the next few years, and we haven't even and this is just because you guys are constrained resource, like, you guys are all playing with constrained resources. So imagine when there's actually like free flowing resources for y'all to actually put some really elbow grease into this. I think, and then at that point, it's just to me, it's just completely obvious. And I think when I look at the space, there's just so much investment in this L2 shit that it's just like complete. It's just gross. Makes me want to throw up in my mouth because I'm like, dude, y'all are literally missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime here with some of these other projects in the space that are going to produce far more sats and have less rugs. But
well, yeah, I mean, I think in the to defend the VCs a little bit. Not that they need defending, but I think the thinking goes a little bit like they see, L2s look a lot like L1s, and they know all their friends who made a bunch of money on L1s, and they're like, well, I won't get L1 money, but I'll get L2 money, and L2 money is pretty good. But in terms of
But
like
yeah,
in
but
terms
it's
of
not
like
Bitcoin
other
though.
stuff, it's a little more confused. It's a little more confusing, um, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
tricky. I think they'll come around.
in a world where everything is centralizing, and it's going to be even harder to grab Bitcoin, this is where it's like completely dumb to me. I don't, and I'm just like see things differently, and I think I've just come to the realization that I do see things differently. So instead, in a world where the world is centralizing, Bitcoin centralizing, and the only way for these free sats to flow, at least right now, is through these custodial models and these L2s. To me, that's really dumb why you would be going in that same direction. It makes more sense going after the other direction where there's potential to be another sprinkler system like it is with mining or with exchanges when it talks about free flowing sats. And to me, when I see this stuff, it's just like that's exactly where all the money will be made because you're talking about straight Bitcoin. You're not talking about like uh, getting some token and then swapping it for sats. Like no, you're talking about straight Bitcoin here. So, anyways, I don't know, but
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think the problem is there isn't a model yet. There aren't many models. I think Fold is maybe the first where it's like not a mining company, not um and not otherwise like an exchange in Bitcoin that is actually like reached an exit, sort of an exit point or a liquidity event for investors. And I think it'll just take a few more of those before investors begin seeing things that aren't layer ones and then new hypothetical layer twos as ways to get money. And I think that'll happen. I think all of this other stuff will explode. The sprinkler system is mostly dependent on non-custodial usage becoming fantastic,
right,
and I think that is going to be the decider of whether that sprinkler system actually works or not.
it will work. Just based off of watching you guys closely for the past year, the amount of work that you guys are doing with a hand behind your back, tied up, with less resources. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you threw more resources at it, and then other people get wind of it, then you have this kind of like explosion in this area, and it's unfortunate for um, people like ourselves on the front line seeing this, screaming at the top of the hill, saying, "Hey, there's gold over here," and they're like, "No, we're headed towards the water. We need to go get some
Water's
water." It's
valuable.
like
Water.
water is valuable, but send some people to go get the gold. Anyways,
I was watching something where they were saying that water is like the world wars of the future will be fought over water, and that scared the shit out of me. I don't know if
well, yeah,
that's
it's like Mad Max, right? It's like water and fuel or whatever.
yeah.
Kind of cool.
Same with what is that other one? It's not Dust. It's Dune. Dune.
Oh no, I still haven't seen that. I saw the
You
first
haven't
one. Is the
seen?
second one good? I haven't seen the second one. Is it good?
You'd like it. I think. I think you would like
Really?
it. And I wouldn't. I'm not. I'm saying that as someone who knows that you don't like Matrix 4 as much as me.
Oh, so I would like. Oh, okay, cool. So it's just very. Yeah, I love Blade
Yeah.
Runner, dude. I love Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Love that movie. It's yeah.
Basing it on that, it's more focused on like cinematics and art and than it is the story, which I know you and the emotional moments are still there, but for
Yes.
me
I'm gonna
for me
watch
it
it
was like
tonight.
okay, whatever. But I like a story stitched together, and like that's what I kind of like. But I know you like
Yeah, I love
the art.
the
Yeah.
emotional arcs to it.
Yeah.
Cool. This is a great. You guys aren't looking into any of the L402 stuff, right? Keyan or no? Like Stacker News?
Um, I discussed it with Oscar in there. Like we'd use it. It makes sense for us. We could use it. We just don't need to use it. There's no like immediate need to use it. It makes our job a little harder. especially as we iterate, to have this additional constraint that we don't really have a need for. But I think in the future, yeah, I'd love to use L402.
This is where I about like Elizabeth Stark. Whenever she goes on stage, she always makes sure to talk about the L402 stuff. You know, that's what I really love about her talks. Is like she spends a good portion of any talk that she ever goes on talking about this stuff. But she is like probably one of the few people that I know that's actually out there talking about it publicly and like telling people, no, this is the way. And if there's anybody that would probably know, it'd probably be her. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a big part of their mission. They're like very early mission. I think even before Taproot assets and stuff, I think it was this idea of kind of like lightningifying
Yeah,
internet applications. And
yeah,
I think that just the builders weren't there for it yet. And then also the non-custodial usage and users weren't really there. And I think, but I think it's still part of what they aspire to, and a lot of people aspire to in Lightning in general, not just Lightning Labs.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. The next top story is what if you need to relearn Bitcoin from scratch again? This is from Bitcoin Beginners Territory. Natalia, August 15th. 41 comments, 17,000 sats. Keyan, what's this?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I always think about like there are those apocalyptic stories where it's like all the libraries burned down, all the computers are destroyed. Can you rebuild civilization from scratch again? And that's kind of the same question, but about relearning Bitcoin. Say your like memory is wiped. Talia is like attempting to write a guide for how to get back to the point where maybe you are now as a Bitcoiner if your like biological memory is wiped. And it's it's all just good advice, good solid advice that you would give to a new Bitcoiner who shows real interest and wants to get on board quickly. Reading the white paper, reading Darth Coin, who is our Satoshi on Stacker News. What do we got? We also got just beginning to use Bitcoin, beginning to experiment with it. Swapping, Lightning, running a node, other places to go, and then really just using Bitcoin as kind of the final one. And it's like the stage
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are in now.
You know what I've realized? Like, somebody should make maybe it happens when you do multiple territories, but there should be a territory of like greatest of all time Stacker news posts. You know what I mean? Like where it just has posts like this, where it just like shows like come look at like the greatest stories that ever been posted, and she puts a lot of good resources here, and she even shares some of the stuff that I know Siggy, was it this one was Siggy's, right? Yeah, Siggy has posted on before. Was this a year ago? Um, and this is one thing I always loved about what Natalia does is that she just grabs a lot of stuff that's out there. It just really organizes it really well. Um, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Said a
Yeah.
lot of
No,
things there, but
I think that's what Siggy intends with kind of the Bitcoin beginners territory. Was he
okay.
kind of wanted a place for these resources to go, these more guides, which they don't end up at the very top of our like forever top charts. Really, those are the ones that are they end up being a little more controversial, and you get
Mm,
a lot of sides on them. But I agree, for these it'd be nice. I mean, in Natalia's case specifically, you can go to Natalia's profile, and
oh,
she
and she
lists
has
out
them there
all of,
too.
yeah. And so
So
most
maybe, may-
people would do that.
so maybe Siggy just needs to pin more of these because you can do multiple pins, right, on a territory.
Yeah, 3 of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. This is a great one. Yeah, these are all the posts that she's made so far. It looks like, dang, that's a lot of them, dude.
Yeah. She does this professionally, so
Oh wow.
not on Stacker News, but writes professionally, teaches people to
Uh,
write.
this is Golu. He said, "Thanks. This is a very good article for me." Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. Top comment. The top comment was from I am single. He says, "Thanks, Natalia. I like your posts too much. They are best for learning. You present your point with precision, yet so comprehensive." Bitcoin Albie says, "Amazing article for beginners. Well described. Best suggestions are start with a white paper. Darth Coin's guide. Great job, bookmark. Also going to suggest to newcomers. Yeah, I love how it's just like Bitcoin only too. It's not like come learn. It doesn't try to be confusing or anything, you know.
Yeah, that's
Anyways,
nice.
cool. The next top story. This is the final top story. What is the best way to measure Bitcoin adoption? This is a Bitcoin Territory, August 12th from Tamales. 29 comments, 2,475 sats. Keyan, what's this?
Tamales. Yeah, so Tamales is really, he cares a lot about Bitcoin adoption. Says for 3 years he's given up on even caring about the Bitcoin exchange rate, but they're really concerned about adoption in general, and they want that to happen. They look forward to that moment when most people he knows are getting the like high that Bitcoiners get from
Mm,
knowing that there's like an alternative future. And he's just wondering how he might measure that. He's looking at interest over time, like a Google web search trends or whatever. It's kind of what he's looking at, and that's maybe one of his proxies. He said the other ones are nodes and hash rate, but that doesn't really indicate like how many people are necessarily interested. Because Michael Saylor is maybe like the price. So someone like Michael Saylor can really pump the price, really pump the hash rate, even pump the nodes maybe in some regard, but not as directly. Maybe nodes is maybe the best proxy. Yeah, but I actually don't know. I don't know of a good measure for what would be the best way to measure adoption. I think a lot
I
of
thought
people
it was
just chimed in
addresses.
merchant adoption.
Wasn't it addresses? I thought that was the whole. Or is it still not? It's not addresses anymore, is it?
It was never really address. You could use addresses, but it's just there's no accurate way because a single person can generate a billion
Yeah.
addresses. So it's a nice it's a nice trick.
You can't really do nodes, right?
You can do nodes. You can do like things like nodes with lightning channels might be a pretty good one because that requires an investment. Not only is the node running, but it's also put up Bitcoin. It's suggesting that one node has Bitcoin and that Bitcoin can't be used for another channel while being in one channel. And so that might be a
Well,
pretty good measure.
how do they measure the dollar? I would say it's probably the similar thing, right? Isn't it just by the amount of dollars flowing through?
Um,
So
yeah,
in that
volume.
sense, yeah, in that sense, would it just be volume for Bitcoin?
Yeah, but that's like Sybilable. So like even for banks, like you could have one person depositing money into one
Mm,
account, sending it to their
yeah,
sister, and them sending it back, and you really want
right.
like what is unlikely to be fake activity, and that's hard to kind of determine in a digital
Well,
system.
the dollar also gets money laundered, you know.
Yeah, that's basically
Yeah,
what I'm
so
saying is that you can't that isn't even a good measure. Like volume isn't even a good measure in the dollar. I think the best thing is merchant adoption, and that's what everyone says. It's like there are merchants accepting Bitcoin. That is kind of when that number
yeah,
goes up. That's not there's no really pretending that a person has a physical, especially a physical location, where they are transacting, exchanging goods for
yeah,
Bitcoin.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Merchant adoption, getting more merchants on, being able to pay with Bitcoin, whole circular economy. Yeah, that makes sense. Because right now you can pretty much go almost anywhere and use the dollar, right? Except for some countries,
Uh, no,
or
I
you can
think a
at least
lot.
exchange it. You can at least
Yeah,
exchange it, can you?
you can exchange it nearly anywhere, but you can do that with most currencies, probably.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. And that was all the top five stories of the week. We're gonna get into Keon's, my favorite part of the segment, Keon's top stories of the week. Keon, what's your first top story?
Yeah, so I usually end up picking stories that are closely off the top five, just because I also found those stories really good. Uh, but this one is a simple stacker wrote, I finally set up my Lightning node. And I just like hearing more. I just remember last cycle, all of the node running that was happening for the first time and how exciting that was. And it's kind of cool to see that still happening. And so I was really excited to see this because there's like a lot of FUD around this happening. And I don't think it's proportional to how I don't think it's where it should be. I think it's somewhat phony FUD, somewhat fabricated, manufactured. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. He describes setting it up for the first time after, getting enough activity going on in Lightning. He said his like Stacker News account is over the limit and stuff, and wanted to have his own somewhere to put it where it was actually in his own control or their own control. And yep, put it on a node, and pretty awesome.
Yeah, we had G with the comment. He said, nice. I need to do this. Do you run your node on Tor? It's not slow. Do you go 𝗚𝗿𝗽𝗵𝗲𝗦? Went like halfway the other day and stopped due to Zeus having a mobile node. I do like how you said it relies on you now, no third party. Simple Stacker says, yes, it's running over Tor. It's not slow. Excuse me. I don't use 𝗚𝗿𝗽𝗵𝗲𝗦. Everything was done from a fresh Linux install. Cool.
Yeah, sounds like Simple Stacker's is technical leaning. They sounds like they were pursuing a more command line friendly experience installing.
Yeah, I think there was a big push last cycle. I didn't even think about that till you said it right now, but I remember there's like a big Raspberry Pi, Raspberry Blitz push, 𝗚𝗿𝗽𝗵𝗲𝗦. There was that whole big push to get everybody to run a node.
I don't think it was a
Looking back,
push. I think it was organic is my main thing. I think
I don't
you don't think
know.
so?
See, no, not anymore. Maybe there was a time where I used to believe stuff like that. Now working in the space, I kind of realize no, it's all freaking coordinated. It's kind of sad. But anyway, maybe I'm just jaded. But to me, like I totally forgot about that. There was a total big push for everybody to run a node, and I even think I remember seeing on Twitter where people were like counting down how many nodes, and we need to pump those numbers and stuff. But you don't see a lot of that stuff anymore, unfortunately.
No. Well, so even if there were companies who were interested in people running nodes back last cycle, it at least lines up with what's good for Bitcoin. It at least makes
Yeah,
sense for what's good for, like, people should run nodes because it's good for Bitcoin. And now the narrative is don't run a node
run a
because
mint so you
you
can rug
can't
people.
you because you can't do it. You're incompetent. You can't run a
I know,
node.
dude. Oh man, this cycle is just like this cycle is more like I know you want real Bitcoin, you can't have it. Here's a nut, and I might rug you later. It's so
Yeah.
dumb, dude. It's so dumb. There's so many like NPC Bitcoiners this cycle. It's just like I feel bad for them because they don't deserve this. That's why I like. That's why I like all these people keeping it real on Stacker News. It's like you can't bullshit some of these people anymore. You can't bullshit people, and it's the scene. It's just seen a lot of bullshit get slung around the space these days. It's just like, man, people are eating this shit up, and they're saying thank you, I want more. It's kind of sad, really is.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's
think
okay. I
people.
can say these things, Keon. It's okay. I can
Okay.
say these things.
I think it's fine. I just want Bitcoin. My view of Bitcoin, my dream for Bitcoin is that there is ubiquitous self-sovereign usage of it. And so like anything that's saying that's not going to happen or it's impossible or
Yeah,
no, don't even try. It just
that's
upsets
why
me.
it's
And
so,
I'm,
dude. That's why it's so dumb to me when I see this and like people fall for it. I'm just like, man, like it's oh man, it's just wild to me that people got psyops so bad to believe that stuff. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy, but you just got to keep being louder. I think that's what it is. Be more toxic. Be more toxic about these things. Let people know that they're being psyoped into believing they can't run a node. It's so sad. Anyways,
yeah.
the your other top story was, or your other one was this one, the background check thing.
Yeah, I just thought this was. I mean, we've had so many breaches this year already, and this one is like even I think this is a follow up to a breach that happened earlier, and they realized how maybe I think this was like an aggregation of a lot of the data that was leaked before. But it's like basically everyone's social security number is out there, all of your background data. I mean, what I found, especially interesting for me is we work right adjacent to a company that does this kind of stuff, that uses this kind of data for their business. They use like AI to like crunch this data and sell that AI interpreted data to
Governments.
employers or governments or whoever really wants to like sneakily find out things about a person. And this is kind of the result of that economy, like that economic activity is this kind of stuff. Is it if that data is valuable and they're gathering it together, someone's going to come and grab it and use it for nefarious purposes.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, but it's the world we live in, Keyan.
It is. So
I got
lock your
nothing to say
credit.
about it. I
Yeah,
got nothing to say about this. It's just, I don't
it's
know. I have
depressing.
nothing to say.
Yeah,
It's not even depressing. It's just, it's
told you
just the
so
world we
type
live
thing.
in, man. The world we live in. Yeah. So the next story was some more doomer stuff. NSA asked Linus Torvalds to install backdoors into GNU Linux in 2013. I didn't know about this, but apparently the NSA asked Linus to inject covert backdoors into the free and open operating system that is Linux. This was revealed this week in a hearing on mass surveillance in the European Parliament. And then the writer says, chalk another one up of the United States NSA trying to make information technology less secure for everyone. And then Linus said here, when my oldest son was asked the same question, has he been approached by the NSA about backdoors? He said no, but at the same time he nodded. Then he was sort of in the legal free. He had given the right answer, but everybody understood that the NSA had approached him. Is there a way for him to? I guess this question for me, for you, is there a way for him to prevent even a backdoor even existing? Do you know what I mean? Like when you're making software, or maybe this is
Uh,
just more of like a Linux kernel kind of thing. But I don't know if you know enough of this stuff to like. Could you
I mean,
build yourself to where people couldn't? Could you build something like on the software side where not even you could, even the person who created it, have a backdoor in it? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
the main thing is like so long as it's possible to put a front door in in the building. Let's say like the software is like a building. If you can put a front door in it, then you can put a sneaky back door in it. There's like the main thing is like so long as it's accessible, there's no reason you couldn't get in. There might be things in the future that with like encryption and stuff that make this like truly impossible, except for the person who's in possession of a key, maybe. But even then, like that encryption system could have a backdoor in it. It's mainly like if it's accessible to the person who wants to use it, then it's like theoretically accessible to anyone else too. And so what you have with a lot of these systems, like with a lot of the like the secure enclaves and stuff where they're storing like encryption keys and stuff, in a lot of cases you like can't like the access that to them is limited even by the person who's using them. Like they can't read them, but they can make it perform operations like cryptographic operations, but they can't take the key out and stuff like that. And that's kind of the best you can do is like limit the door size, that but even the front door to the software.
So it's like building a cellar, and then inside that cellar, there's a cave that's like padlocked or something. Is what you're saying, but you have to get through the front door or the back door to get to the cellar. But even if you get through the cellar, you still have to go through
Yeah, well, it's just
this
impossible to
back.
prove that something doesn't exist. Like that's basically like the if you abstract away, that's basically what this is getting at, is like, can you prove as a software developer that you haven't put something in the software? It's like, but can you
Right.
prove there's not an invisible pink elephant to your left right now? And it's like, no, you can't. You really can't. It's you can prove that something does exist, but not that it doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, we had Solomon Satoshi. Hang on. Yeah, top comment said Windows, Apple, and Android are all infected with this state surveillance poop. We know this much. Whether Linux is still free of it, we cannot be entirely sure, but Linux is still the best bet for all computing, especially Bitcoin work. Um, Dead Beef says, why am I not surprised? This reminds me of how Apple and Google were prohibited from disclosing that they were forced to turn over user push notification data. Um,
Canaries.
yeah,
So yeah, one thing you do here is just canaries, and Apple did have a canary. I don't know about the push notification thing. Maybe they didn't have a specific canary for that.
yeah. And then Stacker Raw says open source is a way to go to guarantee transparency.
Yep.
I mean, that's what graphene has, right? So whether if
Yep.
anybody's checking the code or not, I mean,
I'm sure
I
there
would
are
imagine
some
they are.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
that
then
would sound the
Linux,
alarm.
the Linux kernel has so many eyes on it. I mean, we even have the Core Lightning dev. I think the earliest dev who worked on the spec, Rusty Russell, he worked on the Linux kernel before coming over to Lightning.
It's great stuff. Um, cool. The next top story I wanted to bring up was the DOJ considering push for historic breakup of Google. I don't know if you saw this, but long story short, DOJ attorneys are considering ordering Google to sell portions of its business. So it would be like AdWords, Chrome, Android, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, cloud, I'm sure. Um, and it even got covered by the New York Post. So did you see this? I have some thoughts on it, but what do you think about this sort of, I guess they're calling it Meta ruled Google violated Section 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act in two markets, general search services and general text advertising, and found the default search engine deals are exclusive and have anti-competitive effects. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about antitrust law. They are, I mean, as far as I can tell, Google has a monopoly in several things. I don't know if that's necessarily bad. I think in search, they are abusing that power, and it isn't proving good for its customers. But I think it was Peter Thiel who said this, where because of the antitrust laws, what ends up happening with these large companies like Google is they know they can't form monopoly in one category. So what they do is they begin spreading out. They begin doing things that are distinct businesses, but still kind of pile on top of each other and give them more power. But you can't. But like in a court of law, it's not a monopoly because they're spreading out their power to several areas rather than concentrating it on one. But really, they're just building like a diverse fleet of power rather than like a singular, one sword of power. And I thought that was really interesting. And you do see that a lot. You see that with all these companies. That's why Amazon has like 40 different, I feel like a billion different products. So does Google now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Microsoft did, right? They start creating these other things, and then all of a sudden everybody's using Microsoft Teams. Or you go and do these other things, and then all of a sudden everybody's has an Xbox media dashboard or something.
That's a great point.
It's I mean,
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those things. That's the only thing that you can skate to. I think the only thing that I think here that's kind of troublesome. I mean, it's troublesome for a lot of reasons on both sides, but my thinking cap looks at it and kind of wonders, so let's just say hypothetically they do start splitting this stuff up. Does that actually help them or hurt them? I think long term it probably helps them, I would say, because if you spinning up these different companies into their own separate companies or whatever, um, you're still going to be doing some of the same B2B plays with each other, I would imagine, right? Because you're dependent on each other. Um, and then this probably helps the shareholders or something recoup some of that profit, and probably further, and it probably what will end up happening is you just go and create something similar all over again, and it just yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating for a lot of reasons. I think the other thing is that's really probably not being covered as much is the fact that maybe Google's actually the one trying to do this. Maybe Google does want to be several different companies and want to have its own like YouTube company and have its own like AdSense company, have its own Android company, and um, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
Or
I think that's a pretty interesting theory. Like they couldn't pitch that to their investors, but if they're forced to do
exactly.
it, they don't have to. So, uh,
It
yeah,
also would help right now with with the AI stuff. It probably makes them a little bit more nimble too. I mean, if they really want to go after open AI, they're really going to have to like really you know focus on this stuff. But I thought this was fascinating. I think this is one of the most fascinating things that came out this week. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, you always hear people talk about this, but you never actually like you would never see something like this actually get published and then discussed. So it kind of tells me like maybe this could possibly happen, within our lifetime. But I think the last time this came close was with Microsoft, um, but we know how that kind of turned out. They still ended up doing the exact same thing, but it did kind of like force them to be less or force them to be less aggressive, I would say.
Yeah, well, they had to flatten out and go into all these other areas rather than try to maintain their OS dominance. And I just wonder if that's even good. I wonder if that trade off is worth it. Because I think what we saw as a result of the Microsoft antitrust stuff was tons of acquisitions, like companies that could go on to actually compete with them in terms of like power, maybe in a different domain, though they end up getting acquired for insane amounts of money so that these companies can they have something to spend their money on and a way to gain more power. And it just kind of it limits the like diversity of things in a way. It's like a monopoly. The breaking up these monopolies is thought to increase diversity, but this like shortcut or roundabout way these people are or these companies are avoiding forming monopolies. It's almost like it's almost worse.
Well, it's also too kind of even Google itself, even Apple does this where they just kill startups, Keon. Like they've like there's been so many times where like there'll be a really great app in the App Store and Apple will just implement it like it's their own, and it's just like, and that's just called doing business in America. Like there's no, there. I mean, it's just cutthroat business strategy. I mean, and you can't fault them for that. I mean, we see it in the Bitcoin space. No one talks about it, but it's very cutthroat as far as like the Bitcoin strategy of it all, the business side of it. So to me, this is just kind of like you kind of have to yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like on one side you're like, yeah, this makes sense for Google, but on the other side, if you're like a startup, you're like, oh, this is probably good for me. Now I can actually compete in some of these areas, but it doesn't make it right or whatever. But it is kind of like how many startups have Google killed? Um,
Yeah, I don't know. And I'd be curious actually when the Microsoft antitrust stuff happened and what happened afterward. Like, was it good? Did innovation increase or not? Is that what are we going to like? Can we make a prediction about what'll happen here based on what happened in the Microsoft case? I'd be really curious actually. But maybe it doesn't matter either way. I don't.
it would be cool to see YouTube be its own thing, though. I think that would be cool. Like it would, because then you would finally be able to maybe not be so woke. Maybe, and they could start implementing some other things, but they won't do it though. Or they don't have the balls to do it. But that would be cool. The other thing is, do you think there's any companies in the Bitcoin space that have potential to be like maybe not Google side, but maybe like on they have hands in multiple hats, and it's just kind of they are kind of doing that kind of strategy,
Mm,
or you think it's
I
still
def-
too early?
it's probably too early, but I think most Bitcoin companies are rather constrained. We see some of the ones like you have
Like
Zebedee.
Coinbase? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
well Zebedee they have a fairly diverse like portfolio of products, and they're kind of growing them all simultaneously. And
Blockstream.
then yeah, Blockstream has
Yeah.
quite a group of products. I'm trying to think of quite of other
Swan
ones there.
Swan was trying to do that, but I guess they're more
Yeah.
not there anymore, unfortunately, or fortunately,
I don't
however you
know
look at it.
what happened there. I wish we actually knew what happened there because it's just so cryptic, the
I
little
think what
bit
we
of
saw there is
information.
probably what I was just describing, just the cutthroat business strategy to, you know, being a business in the Bitcoin space, or even like this, like if we saw, um, like even in Google, how many, like I think Daily Motion, I don't know if Daily Motion's still around anymore, but like at that time, remember, like they could have purchased YouTube or so and so, and then they purchased YouTube, and the Daily Motion just went away, like it's not even there anymore. I need to probably check to see if it's still there. But you get what I'm
It's
saying?
probably
Like
there.
maybe it's one of those things where it's just like people with bigger, just playing a higher degree of chess than some of these other ones and just seeing 5 moves ahead. That's what I would imagine. But I don't know. I kind of
Yeah.
like all that stuff. I find it super fascinating to see
I
all
actually
those
don't
kind of
like
things.
it. I don't like it at all. I wish it were more like I'm the kind of person who when I play a video game, I like a cooperative video game. I like when it's me and my friends and we're against like the NPCs. I don't like it when it's like me versus my friend because it's just it feels like I don't know because if it's zero sum. It's like one of us is going to lose, one of us is going to win. It washes out to zero.
I think that actually makes it exciting, though. I'm not advocating for it, but I think it actually makes it exciting. But I think you have to. I think if you're running a business just in general, and this could be a small mom and pop business, small medium sized business. I think you have to come to reality that that is a thing, though. There are people that are trying to that are
Yeah.
not friendlies, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
There are people that
Oh
are trying
yeah.
to make sure you're wiped out, and you shouldn't be naive to that fact.
No, no, no,
If
no.
you're yeah. And I think Google's
Absolutely.
one of those though. Those that's not a friendly. Microsoft, Apple, they're not friendlies. They're not trying to make you rich as a business.
No, no,
But
not if it doesn't help them, probably,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Anyways, but yeah. And then I was going to cover the other two things that were in the builder territory this week. So Jippi, it's an app here inside of Austin that's about to launch. Did you see this?
Yeah, yeah, I've been
August
able to
30th.
see some designs of it, and I saw this post about the launch party. I'll be getting drunk there, possibly
Yeah.
dancing on some tables.
What's this? I
Uh,
saw this. I didn't even know about this. What is this?
oh yeah, I don't know if you actually didn't know about that because you say you don't know about things that you do know about, but yeah, I was talking to Oliver, and he's like, hey, so what do you think about? Oliver has like a British accent that I can't do very well, but he's like, hey, what do you think about, like ads and stuff? How does that, how, he did it in a very sly roundabout way. And I was like, yeah, I would just go and ask and, make a fair price. And he's like, okay, well, do you want to do it? Do you want to put a little ad? And, and I was like, oh crap, I just set myself up for this, didn't I? And, then I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll give me an ad. And he mocked this up like in an hour or two. And I'm like,
Dude,
yeah,
that
it
looks
looks
so
great.
cool, dude. That
Yeah.
looks so cool. And then where was the other one? I'm trying to find the other one that I saw here was I don't see it. There was some good. I don't see it. No, I don't see it. There was somebody asking about the education stuff. It's like what type of education would it be, and that sort of thing. So
I'm
I would just
curious
say
about it too.
yeah. I think just having Oliver in the lab lately is just a bit exciting for a lot of reasons because he has a totally new project, and like as you know, whenever there's like a new project or a new company in PlebLab, everybody just like wants to start helping them, and that's what I love to see. It's just that kind of like collaboration. So it's just good to see that happen. And also August 30th, if you're going to be in Austin, come through PlebLab. It's going to be a good time. And then the other thing I wanted to share was this. You see this?
Oh, the top builder Mexico, startup day
No,
Mexico.
Startup Day, Mexico City.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah, we're
did
going to
see.
do this September 19th. Fun fact: the last time we did a Startup Day, it was all time high. So we might see an all time high, Keyan.
Oh, you mean you guys determined the Bitcoin price? Was that
I think
really the
so.
last start day? Was that in
Yeah,
Mexico? The last start day in Mexico was all
the
time
the
high.
last the last startup day was the all time high. Yeah, it hasn't gone higher since then. That was March 14th.
Oh, March 14th. That's the first one you did on Sixth Street.
No,
Is
that
that one?
was here this year, March 14th. Thursday, March 14th was the last Bitcoin all time high.
Oh, oh,
And then
okay.
so I'm saying the next Bitcoin all time high is going to be September 19th, Thursday.
Wow, I just forgot that that was so recent.
Yeah,
The last one.
we have tickets available if you want to come check it out. We haven't announced our keynote speaker yet, but we're gonna have a lot of startup announcements. A lot of presentations from some new companies, some that even Keyan doesn't know. And yeah, we're gonna do
I
it.
love a surprise.
But yeah, get your passes
Not really.
now. We're doing 59 fiat or 59 Bitcoin, however you want to do it, for
What? No
locals. And then
discount for using Bitcoin, bro?
yeah, that is a discount. It's massive discount.
Oh, 59. Oh, wait, it's 59,000 sats versus $59.
Yes, 59,000 cents. That's what it is. Go out and get your tickets. But it should be a lot of fun.
You
It's
don't.
gonna be at La Casa de Satoshi, which is a Bitcoin hub in Mexico City. They're gonna make a big announcement there. Definitely don't want to miss that. Super secret stuff. But yeah, come out. And
I had
then
FOMO last time.
yeah, you should come, dude. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna be racing on the pyramids and everything.
Oh, I'd
And
love
the
to race on a pyramid.
the other thing was the meta stuff. Keyan,
Oh,
peer-to-peer non-custodial Zaps.
yeah. Yeah,
That's
so we have
right.
a few things in this one, but this is like we've been building up for the last um I don't know, months now. To this basically. We did a bunch of upfront work to get to a place where we could do this well. And I had written a lot of this code before, but we were like, oh no, there's like all this other stuff that we need to do to really make the UX of this good. So then we spent a couple of months doing that. And now we actually put it all together with this. And now you get these peer to peer non custodial zaps, and our attempt is to make it is that it's eventually indistinguishable from the custodial experience. That's what the hard part of this is.
Woo doggy, woo
But we
doggy.
don't. We'll see. We'll see. We're not. It's definitely not there yet, but it's. I think it's in that direction.
Why
So
do
I'm
we do
really
hard
excited.
things? Why do we do hard things? Why do we do hard
Only
things, Keon?
because they're hard, and that's hard things are more fun. Um,
Exactly.
at least when you
Good
don't
job,
get.
man. Good job. I know
Well, we'll
you've been
see.
stressing out over this. I know EK's been stressing out over this. Yes, we'll see. It's still early, but the fact that you can make this post and claim such is still progress. And this is all like everything's been on the back burner. For people that don't know, have been following this is all he does is just this for like a solid month. It feels like maybe 2 months at this point. And I keep telling him, you got all this other crap that's like piling up. When are you going to get back to it? He's like, dude, we got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, well,
Hmm.
how much time total have you been spent trying to figure this out?
Yeah, I think. Well, since we began worrying about this, which was sometime last fall, we began doing this sort of part time. But I would say altogether now, it's probably about a man year. It's probably spent on figuring out how to do this really well. And I was saying before that, like making the UX like a custodial UX, it really requires lots of careful attention to what's going on and paying attention to that. Because a lot of what the non-custodial experiences that we have now is someone goes to make a payment, you click the button, it says it completed, and you don't really know, and then it might have failed. And you just don't. There's really no knowledge about it. There's no way to follow up and redo the same thing. And so many of these like little issues that don't seem like a big deal unless you're using Lightning in the application a lot, and then that stuff accumulates into like near like like a product resentment. Is like that's how bad UX can manifest sometimes. It's tiny little increments of resentment. Anyway, but so that's kind of what we're striving to do. And then in addition, we have this other complicated problem of wanting our zaps to be provable, like that we know the money actually moved from one person to another. So it requires us like watching the payment as it happens, more or less. And that's like another part of this that's really hard, because there's no way to do that easily in Lightning. We have to do this LN proxy like thing, which has this added benefit of giving anyone who has an attached wallet on Stacker News for receiving like privacy in a way that they wouldn't get otherwise. So there's all this stuff to it, but yeah, I'm excited that we got to this point. It seemed, super far away when we first began discussing it. It's like, oh man, I know how much I'm just going to have to stop doing everything else to do this. It's going to suck. And it did suck, but
yeah, you even said here, so for the FAQ, what happens to the sats in my Stacker News account when the wallet's plans are done? He said nothing. They will always be yours to withdraw. I'm hard of reading. What will happen to my sats? Nothing. They will always be yours to withdraw. Seriously, what will happen to my sats? Nothing. They will always be yours to withdraw. So what are you saying there? Are you saying that there will always be there for you to withdraw? Is that what you're saying?
Trying to make it like clear to everyone, because every time we mention the wallet plans, people are like, rugging coming. They've all been like traumatized.
Are you doing mints? You're not doing mints, right?
Mints? What?
Like you're not doing any of the mint stuff, the eCash stuff?
Oh no, it's a rug joke. No mints on rugs. But a lot in this space, people have become conditioned to expect a rug pull every 6 months or something. And so it's hard to be like, when you say we're going to do everything to make sure we'll never do that. Everyone's like, you're going to do it anyway, because it's happened to me a billion times. And but we're just going to, what'll happen is the sats will stay in your account until you withdraw them. That'll be basically, you can't send them to other stackers, but they'll be there for you to withdraw. So there's no rug. It's just, you can't send them to other stackers. You can just withdraw. You can only withdraw them, and we'll just leave that up forever. Even if Stacker News goes down for whatever reason, I'll personally pay you out your sats if I have to. That's why I say forever here. I couldn't live with doing something like that. I don't know how other people do it so easily, but
lack of integrity, Keyan, is how that works. Lack of integrity, lack of morals.
I just think that they must not think it matters or something. I don't know. I feel like those people.
Most of them wear masks. Most of them wear masks. Most of them wear masks. Right. They lack integrity. They lack morals. They hide behind masks. Anyways, what was I going to say? To go back here, just real quick, Super Testnet said your next one should be Nostr Wallet Connect. The spec supports both sending and receiving, but right now you have it as send only. EK said, yes, it's next on my list. However, since we don't want to store spending permissions, what is going on here? Because Super goes back and forth, says stuff about lnbits, and then he says Nostr Wallet Connect. So what's the verdict here?
So we're going to do that. Well, basically, any way that we possibly can attach an external source of Lightning funds that can pay a Bolt 12 or receive or generate a Bolt 12 for receiving, we're going to support it. So if anyone says you should do this, it's like, yeah, we want to do that. We have a PR open for Blink right now. Basically any way that this is possible, our intention is to support it. And EK specifically did a bunch of work on making this really easy to add these so they can be added really fast. So we should be able to support literally anything that's capable of doing a Lightning payment the way I described. So we fully intend to support symmetrical Nostr Wallet Connect situation.
Yeah, dude, Alby's looking it's looking very good right now.
Yeah, they're doing cool stuff.
It's looking very good right now.
Have you used the hub yet?
That's one of the things I want to do this weekend is set it up locally. I talked to Moritz this weekend. I'm sold. It just, to me, it just seems like it's going to be the place that plebs go to run this stuff. And you can even do it in a self-custodial, or how I should say, non-custodial way. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on here?
No. The other thing we did was a Sats filter where you can basically say, I only want to see posts that have like 1,000 sats invested in them. And that gives you a little more control over like signal to noise, probably. Yeah. And so that's really it. And then we have a few other things we need to do for the wallets and stuff, but that's the release this week.
So once you kind of figure this stuff out, Kian, is it safe to say other people that are in the Lightning ecosystem can leverage some of this work that you've already done and implement it in their own way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would hope so. I think some of this stuff is so like the LN proxy stuff inside of the application is so hard. I'm not sure most people would put it in an application, but I think there are possible uh, things that can be done with bolt 12s in the future when those become a little more common. That you don't need to do the LN proxy like stuff. And so my hope is by building some of these things, what it is like a signal for the demand and the need for it, so that we see more of this stuff happen at a lower level than the application. We see it happen more so on the protocol level. They begin supporting application usage like this. That's my hope. But in the meantime, yeah, they could use like our wallet implementation stuff. That'll be very easy to use for other people. This could even be used. I think this is probably the most approachable. I document the crap out of our proxy situation, so someone could really port that over. And there are people in the space that are already doing it. Like Geyser already does this for their
Oh, wow.
donations when they take a fee, but their code isn't open source, so I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, I hope.
But
I
this is
mean,
all open source. You have all this open source.
all of our code is open source. I call it "what you see is what we ship." And so, like literally, if you go to our repo, that's the code that gets deployed. It's not like there's some people who won't say names in Bitcoin who are open source, where they have like sections of their code that are open source that go unupdated for like a year, and then they claim they're still open source when they're deploying code that no one has even seen or be able to look at. Anyway.
Love it, Keon. I love it. See, this is where I'm going to say this. I don't say this too often, but I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you at EK. I think what you guys have done is the way it should be done, if that makes any sense. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of a lot of stackers' hearts that you went the hard route, and it's still going. You're still out there trying to make it work, but the fact that you said no, f that, we're going to do it the hard way. A lot of people were like, "You're crazy." Some people left you, but you're like, "No, this is the way." Um, I think just hats off. It's really cool, man. It's a really good achievement, and I just want to make sure that stackers that are listening, watching right now, they realize that like a lot of hard work went on behind the scenes. He was not happy doing this for 2, 3, 4, however long you've been doing it. So just want to say that, dude. Good job, and yeah, keep this kind of hard work going. It's just inspiring, man.
Well, we'll see. Let's see if I can support, or if I can physically do this kind of hard work. For the other kind of work is so much more fun. I look forward to getting back to that and grinding on that. This kind of stuff is just so unrewarding, and I appreciate. If I had a heart, I would thank you from the bottom of my heart. But yeah.
No, it's fine. No, just great job, EK. Shout out to EK too. EK's been hard at work. There's been many Chipotle lunches we've had together where he's like, "Okay, Car, I don't know. Like, we're doing the wallet stuff. That's a good idea, but maybe after the wallet stuff." So shout out to EK too. And if you're interested in contributing to Snacker News, check out the Oscars. It's Did this help at all? Trying to figure this stuff out, the
Not
non-custodial
the,
stuff.
well, we have a Blink. Someone who's contributing the Blink wallet that we'll add soon. They are an Oscar contributor, um, but a lot of this stuff is not Oscar worthy, as they say in the
Oh,
business. Not really, but yeah, it's like a little too complicated. Like again, it was like months and months, and an open source contributor does not have that kind of attention span for a hobby contribution.
Yeah. Also, lastly, if you're interested in doing hard things, things that are really hard, and you care about this kind of stuff, apply. Keyan's hiring. You could
I am
learn from
hiring.
people that like to do hard things, or you could go the easy route and go do super easy things.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Um,
hear, maybe I know Swan isn't hiring probably anymore, but there are probably other Bitcoin exchanges that are hiring. Um, if you might want to do hard things, you want to try it out, just begin contributing to the open source project, and then if it turns out you want to do something easier,
yeah,
I can try to hook you up with a connection to someone who no, they don't think of their stuff as easy, and it probably isn't easy. It's probably hard in its own way. But I can connect you with other founders who are maybe doing something that you like more.
yeah, cool. I think that's all it for the stories this week. We're gonna jump into the top stackers of the week. Undisciplined, Coob, Gray Ruby, Tom K. Yeah,
Oh, I can't see your screen, so I'm gonna have to do it on mine. I'm
the
in
usual
build.
suspects.
Okay, no changes.
rsync, rsync always coming through with the stories every week.
Yeah, they're pumping them out. Oh, EK topped him this week. Look at that.
Yeah, I've been
Bell.
seeing him comment a lot.
Yeah. All right.
Let's jump into the top cowboys, the most popular segment in Bitcoin. There is no more. There is no popular segment in Bitcoin. There's only one popular segment in Bitcoin. It's not. It's not. It's not on another podcast. It's on this podcast. It's called the Cowboy segment.
The
Apparently, it's the
flippening.
most. It's the most
We've had the
popular
flippening.
segment in Bitcoin. It's the most popular segment in Bitcoin,
Car is
which is
flipping.
surprising to. Which is surprising to me, but it makes sense. You got the blockchain boog up there. You got Coob up there. Bitcoin is the future. Undisciplined. Yeah.
We're all Satoshi. Look at these guys. Some of these guys have
This
stacked. Undisciplined
fresh
stacked
blood.
4 million sats.
Some fresh
That's
blood up here.
crazy. Gray Ruby, nearly 3 million sats. We're all Satoshis at 1 million. It's kind of crazy seeing some of these numbers as time goes on. rsync at 2 million. But yeah, helping them. That's their cowboy hat is helping them keep their sats flowing.
Yeah, I saw there is a saloon post this week where it's like blockchain boog and Darth Coin going at it. It's, it's amazing.
What were
I
they
think Darth,
saying?
I forget, but I think there was
Ecash
something
or
where
something?
I'm sure it was that, but there was something where like blockchain boog was like, "Don't pay attention to what I spend my sats on," and then Darth Coin was like, "You don't pay attention to your sats," or it was like a back and forth, but it was hilarious because in my head I know their personalities online now, so just but I've never seen them interact, and seeing them interact for the first time was kind of like hilarious to me. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like two worlds colliding, if that makes sense for me.
Yeah, but I'm sure they had to have collided before. We should do that. Like maybe be cool to see like an interaction section where you can like be like when have Coob and Car interacted? When have Super and
Yeah, that
Car
that that,
interacted?
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I tend to interact with everybody, but I think the only person I've ever actually I don't think I've ever gotten into it with anybody on Stack News, but I'm open to it. Hit me up.
Yeah. Bring it on,
You ever
guys.
you ever get into any interactions?
Not usually. I can get kind of catty, grumpy and short, but I try not to get when people lash out at me, I mostly don't react to it. I try to find what they're trying to say, like if they're trying to communicate something to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just don't respond.
Do you feel sad whenever you reply to someone and they don't reply to you back on Stack News? Is that
Uh, no, occasionally that happens, but it's really rare actually because it's mostly a matter of you make sure you zap them when they reply to you. That's like it's a bit of like a Pavlovian thing. Well, they're like, wait, I'm missing out on sats by not actually coming back and continuing this interaction.
Yeah, that does make me wonder. Like, do you think it's so? Then, in that sense, like, if somebody tags you on a comment and you reply to it and they don't zap you, do you take like, hey man, I came all this way?
Dead to me. That's how. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because and then what if they reply under you and they've never zapped you before? Then it kind of at that point, like, why would you even reply, right?
Well, they
Unless they
might be
zap
as
you.
yeah, unless you might correlate a zap that happened around the time they replied to them and be like, okay, they're a zapper. They're being earnest, and then you respond. But I think several people have said that they can engage on more long form conversations on Stacker News, and I think it's this zapping stuff. I think it's the expectation that if you go back to an old conversation that even few people are going to see, but the person you're interacting with is going to see,
Mm.
there's a likelihood you're going to get a reward for it. And I think that's part of the sauce, if there is a sauce, is that
So
aspect.
so you're saying all content, all comments on Stacker News is evergreen.
Potentially, I mean, we need to do a better job, but potentially it could
No,
be.
that's true. I do see some people comment on the stuff that I post like from months back, and but it makes me wonder, like, how did they get there? Like, did it just from search or
Probably search,
so?
or in the related section under posts, we get a lot of old stuff in there.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was fascinating. And then yeah, I think that's. Oh yeah, we're going to Million Sat Madness, which doesn't exist anymore. But looks like Undisciplined's going to win the big leaderboard this today. Tom K,
Yeah,
𝗚𝗿𝗽𝗵𝗲𝗦, Kepford, usual
we got a
suspects.
boost. We must have got a boost while we were on today. I think the Simply Bitcoin guys have been, yeah, they've
Oh,
been boosting
nice.
every day. Yeah,
Dude, they have like the most popular show in Bitcoin, dude. Did you know that?
they do. Yeah, I knew that.
It sucks too because I saw what's his name. I forget the guy's name right now. I saw him at the super secret party, and I was talking to somebody, but when I saw him, I was like, I want to come talk to you, but I just never circled around. Sucks. But I gave him a look, and he gave me a look like, yeah, I want to talk to you too. Anyways,
Oh wow, that's love, dude. I don't know.
dude, I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, like the more and more people that we get on Stacker News, the better. The more Sats that'll flow, and if they're dropping 60K Sats, boost. I mean, come on. Also,
Yeah.
get your boy Car on the show. Get Keyan on the show. Keyan, you don't want to come on the show, do you?
I should probably do media, but you know how it is.
Get your boy Car on the show. He'll talk about Stacker News.
There you go.
Cool. They're gonna read the top comments from this past episode. So last week was Stacker News Live 132 Mutiny Wallet shutting down with Ben Carmen. Dude, it had our most views, most listens ever. So
I mean,
that
it's
was
always
interesting.
it's always when there's like a real developer on staff. We have Super does a good, so Super comes on
No, I
and
think it was the I think it was
blockbuster.
because we covered the mutiny part in the beginning. I think that's what it was. Like I think it was like such big news
That was really
to
smart of you
people.
because it
No, that was
yeah.
your idea. You're the one that wanted to do the interview part.
No, you wanted to do it. You invited Ben on. I didn't even realize it was an exclusive. I figured he would have gone on like RHR
Lavera,
or Citadel
Lavera.
Dispatch or something.
Well, they've all canceled him because he's with Udi now. So that's what happens.
Oh, but I mean, even if they think he's a shitcoiner now, they should talk about transitioning, like a transition. They should talk to someone who's in the middle of a transition from Bitcoiner to shitcoiner. They really figure
Yeah,
out
that
what
was
happened.
one thing. That was one thing. Like I got feedback from that episode from a couple people, and I don't see it that way. I think I see it more like, dude, he put in his time, um, for Bitcoin, and I think that's we should be nodding our hats to that. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing just because he went to go have a living now, make a living, because he probably wasn't making a living doing the Bitcoin stuff. And but yeah, I mean, people are just built different. Their pay threshold's different, you know.
Yeah, I don't. I actually don't think. We've talked about this a little bit in the lab, but I don't think, and I talked about it on the podcast. I actually don't think this is a sin of any kind, or it was a sin he needed to earn, or like I don't think he's gone in that direction. He's working on a scaling technology for Bitcoin, and I think the only crime you can accuse him of is being associated with someone who is seen as like a center. And so I just don't see that as much of a big deal. Knowing Ben, I know if he thought if it was actually if he thought it was actually doing something bad,
Yeah,
he wouldn't do it. So
yeah. Anyways, it was a great episode. Go back and listen to it last week. We had Blockchain Boogie said Zap.
that
Dryon said great. Vake said, please pass these sats to Udi so he can give them to Ben. There you go.
okay. Do you have a channel open with Udi?
No, I don't. I would never. But yeah, that's what Vake said. And then, I think we got another one here. Vake also said, stay in your lane. I guess he's talking to me. I don't know what that means.
Well, you always say, when I ask you a question you don't want to answer, you're like, I stay in my lane. I stay in my lane.
I
I stay
like
in my
that. I like,
lane. Other people, they like to swerve around. I stay in my lane.
it depends on whether I'm getting on the freeway or not. If I'm getting on the freeway, then I definitely won't stay in my lane. But if I'm
Yeah.
getting off the freeway and I'm just going,
There's
like
only one
normal
lane. Yeah.
surface streets, I stay in my lane. It just depends. Like if it's one of those weeks, like this week, I definitely was all over.
Yeah. Fair.
Definitely wasn't in my lane this week. It was on the freeway.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder what lane Baker's talking about, though. I'm
It's probably talking
curious.
about like the one where you get multiple people. What's that lane called? And then you can
Carpool?
only go to. Yeah, he's probably talking about the carpool lane. I definitely never get on the carpool lane. I'm not one of those guys.
Do we even have a
Um,
carpool lane in Texas? Do they even have
yeah, I
that
think
here? I
there's
thought that was a
carpool.
California
No, I think
thing.
there's some in Houston and San Antonio. But yeah, there's carpool lanes. In Austin,
Okay.
they're called toll lanes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good old capitalism.
Good old communism.
Wait, toll lanes are not communism.
No,
That's
dude, the
cap.
way they set them up. Okay, we're gonna go into a whole rabbit hole here, but the way they set them up here in Texas, specifically in Austin, we've already paid for that toll lane 20,000 times over at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
whole fiat game. Anyways, Keon, what are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing? I don't think I'm doing anything at all. Probably anything that's worth communicating. I need to set up a new node, so I might set up a new node. I might
What are you going
buy
with?
a
What are
Graphene
you gonna
OS.
do?
I have a Start 9. I bought a Start 9
Oh, okay.
Embassy, I think. Is that the name of the operating system? Do you know what I bought the
Uh,
one of their boxes,
okay.
and I'm going
Cool.
to do
So you're
that.
gonna set that up? Are you
Yeah,
gonna make a
it's
post about it?
if it's worthy of a post. I have a hard time writing these posts because like I don't like think when I'm doing these things. I don't like thinking. I just like doing it, and that's like part of what makes it fun. But if I'm thinking about it, it's gonna not be a vacation that I like a hobby thing. So we'll see. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do there is just like take photos of you doing it
Mm,
and then go back later and then all you're doing is just or like describing what you're doing here, and that's how I used to do it whenever I would do these kind of tutorials. Um, is that
that's a good
what
idea.
am I doing? Just working. I got some stuff I got to take care of for startup day. Then just coordinating a lot of different Bitcoin builders to Mexico City is a lot of coordination there. So I got to send out like a blast email and all that kind of stuff, and then um, making revenue, trying to make revenue every day. I've committed like 3 to 4 hours every day trying to make revenue. It actually
Mm.
works. It actually works if you really just focus on making revenue once a day for a lot of piece of time. I'm sure this is how sales works. I don't know. I'm learning this stuff, but you can really
Oh,
drive
everything
sales.
works.
But yeah, I've just been more cognizant of what I actually spend my time on.
That's great.
Like, yeah, but it's what happens when you want to build in the Bitcoin space. You have to figure it out.
Well, dude, yeah. I mean, it's like a skill. I mean, I think that's great that it's like you're like basically what it sounds like you're saying is like it's a trainable skill. Like
Yeah,
making
because I
money is a
was
trainable
terrible
skill.
at sales. I was terrible at sales. But you get more comfortable with it, and you kind of learn how to pitch something in a way, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Um, and people will pay for things if they see value in it. That's another thing I realize is undervaluing what you're creating.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be common. You don't want to undersell. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast with Fabs. It's a skill to learn how to present yourself in a way that is attractive to people, that gets you attention you want. And it's like similar with your business and your business proposition. It's a skill to communicate it to people.
Yeah, we had Vertigo Kitty said the DOJ's new approach under Linus to monopoly regulation is a swing back to the way the country used to perceive monopoly power in the early part of the 20th century. Interesting to watch. Interesting. And then Prem Lee said, "You do a great job of rewarding me for my contributions." There you go, Coop.
Oh, I don't know. I can't see the nim, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. These are comments. I'm reading comments. Sorry, that's right. I forgot you couldn't see the thing. All right, cool. Stackers, you go out this weekend. You start up your own node. Don't let people tell you can't run a node. You find an old IBM, an old Dell, whatever it is. Get it out there. Find it at Goodwill. Start running. You can run Umbro on a Dell, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
or
I think
run a Phoenix server too, an Albi server now, dude.
It's getting easier and easier.
It's getting easier and easier. And then after you're done with that, connect it to your Stacker News wallet, and then go out and buy a startup day ticket. Buy a startup day ticket for 59,000 cents. There you go.
Yeah. So maybe profit later, but everything you learn at startup day, you'll profit on the other side.
I'm just kidding. No, run a node though. I would say go run a node, or at least give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, Keyan.
Zap.